What if I told you you could be less qualified, less experienced, and maybe even less technically competent and still beat out somebody stronger than you on paper for the job? This happens all the time. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to communicate like a top performer in interviews, even if you get nervous, you're introverted, or you feel like you're not great with words. So let's dive in. So, why this matters more than you think. Listen, I've been a corporate recruiter for over 20 years. I've sat across the table from tens of thousands of candidates, and I've read hundreds of thousands of resumes. And I can tell you without hesitation, the way you sound in interviews can matter more than what's on your resume. And I've seen it firsthand. A great candidate walks in with a absolutely stacked resume, but speaks in circles, rambles, and hedges everything with I think or maybe, and completely undersells themselves. But then somebody else walks in, maybe less experienced, but they speak clearly, confidently, and most importantly, with conviction. And I want you to take a guess on who is more likely to get the job offer. And here's a little hint. It's not always the one with the better resume. All right, so let's get tactical. Here's how the top 1% actually speak in interviews, and here's how you can do it too. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out the fluff. More specifically, we want to be specific. Listen, weak candidates tend to talk in generalities. They'll say things like, I helped manage projects and improve team efficiency. And honestly, that's pretty weak. Whereas top candidates will say, I spearheaded a $2.5 million capital improvement project related to the job that they're interviewing for. That cut production time by 35% across 3 departments. Here's how I did it, and here are the receipts. Listen, specifics build credibility, and they show that you're not just about talking, you've actually done the work. Next, we want to drop weak language from our vocabulary. Phrases like I think, I guess, maybe, probably, or if you're somebody that tends to say like a lot, those things kill your authority. So instead of saying, I think I'd be a good fit, try saying, based on what you're looking for, I'm a strong match because. So in other words, we're going to swap uncertainty for clarity because it changes how you're perceived almost instantaneously. Next, we want to speak in outcomes, not responsibilities. So don't just tell me what you're responsible for. Tell me what happened because of you. So to give you an example, you don't want to say, I managed a customer service team. But instead, you want to say, I led a team of 10 and improved customer satisfaction scores by 18% in 6 months by successfully spearheading the following initiatives. Think impact and think results, because that's what hiring managers want to hear. Next, you want to control your pace and pause with purpose. You see, most people, myself included, tend to rush their answers. They fill the silence with uhs, and nervous babble, and they feel a need to constantly be talking. The problem is the more you speak, the less convincing you come across. So if you want to sound confident, you need to slow down. Personally, I tend to talk fast. So in interviews, I've had to really work hard at minding my pace. So when you're asked a question, don't feel like you immediately need to start speaking. Consider how the question relates to the job at hand. Pause before you answer and let your words land. In other words, use silence strategically because it's a very powerful move. It shows confidence and it shows thoughtfulness. And during this pause moment, while you're thinking through things, what you want to do is use the time to collect your thoughts and reflect. You might even want to ask a clarifying question if you need more context. And listen, being in a rush usually just shows that you're grasping and hoping to land on the right answer that they'll agree with. But when you think and you understand the issue at hand and you deliver a targeted result, that's what gets them to lean into you. Next, stop trying so hard to impress. The 1%er doesn't need to try to wow the interviewer with their superior knowledge, their ability to regurgitate terminology, or even to name drop, because they don't need to. And then humble bragging to me is a sign of weakness, or even worse, it's imposter syndrome. Instead, they exude coolness because they've been there, they've done that, and they know that they can do it again. And there's no guessing at what the interviewing teams are looking for. The 1%er knows exactly what the right path is, and they're here to teach the company the best way forward. And for the 1%er, they don't need to talk themselves up. It's just the knowingness that they're completely capable. Another thing that gets people in trouble is this tendency to overshare, and they'll give way more context than the answer needs. And when you're setting up your answers, the 1%er is getting right to the point. They're setting it up with a very specific format. Usually they're following like STAR, the situation, task, action, and result. And they're getting right to the bottom line of what the company is actually assessing. But when people tend to overshare, they give a lot more context, a lot more detail than is necessary. All it does is water down the message. And if you're somebody that can't convey your thoughts quickly and concisely in an interview, they're likely going to look at that as an indicator that you're going to struggle to do that in a business setting. So make sure that you're not oversharing and only give them the relevant details that they need to know. Another thing to be really careful about is self-depreciation. If you're sitting in an interview telling them that you're not really that capable, you didn't really do a whole lot on this project, it was really other people, or you use the terminology we a lot, basically what you're saying is you're not a great fit for the role and you're pretty much eliminating yourself. Don't give them any reason to think negatively upon you. And the one percenter is coming in with supreme confidence. They're never depreciating themselves. And if they haven't figured out something or demonstrated a particular competency, they're talking about the ways that they've filled similar competencies themselves in the past. They're not talking about how they're not capable of doing that particular thing. Listen, it's all about confidence here and how you frame yourself. So why does this all matter? I remember one senior role in particular that I was working on, and there were two final candidates. One candidate had a perfect resume, literally everything we were looking for. He had an MBA from a respected school, 15 years in the industry, had relevant experience in a similar job with a competitor. The other candidate was decent. He had some of the skills we were looking for. He wasn't anything spectacular on paper. He only had a few years of direct experience and he didn't have any industry exposure. But here's the thing. The perfect candidate fumbled through nearly every answer. He couldn't clearly explain his contributions. He sounded unsure, even when he probably wasn't, and he lacked confidence, and that was frankly bewildering given his level of experience. The second candidate came across as clear, confident, spoke with purpose, and when we debriefed, the hiring manager said something that stuck with me. He said, "I have to sell this hire to my VP, and I can't risk putting somebody in front of her who sounds so unsure of himself." In other words, the better communicator got the job, not the one with the better resume. That's how much your delivery matters. Okay, so let's recap. Be specific, no fluff, no filler, and no BS. Cut the weak language, no I thinks, no maybes, and replace it with absolutes. Speak in outcomes, show your impact. Slow down, be comfortable with a little bit of silence, and use it to your advantage. Listen, these are simple tactical changes, but they will instantly make you more credible and confident in interviews. And best thing is you don't need to be a smooth talking extrovert to ace an interview. You just need to sound like somebody who believes in what they're saying. Now, if you want more help positioning yourself to be an obvious top candidate, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com, which is loaded with tips and tricks, all from an insider's perspective. And I share my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses. The first one being how to write a resume. It's called Resume Rocket Fuel, and it's designed to teach you exactly how to write a resume that is going to get the attention of recruiters so that you can actually start getting the phone to ring. Because if the phone never rings, you're never going to get a chance to be confident in your interviews. We walk through exactly how to build a resume from the ground up, and I actually write my resume right in front of you for you to follow along step by step. And I include templates and all that kind of stuff. And we go deeper into how to speak the language that gets you hired. The resume is directly tied to your interviewing skills. Because once you get the phone to ring, then it's up to you to market yourself effectively through each round of the interviewing process. And that's where the ultimate job seeker bootcamp comes in. It picks up where the resume leaves off, and it gives you an exact methodology for acing the interview. So I give you tips, techniques, strategies for each round so that you can walk through the interview with the highest degree of confidence. Ultimately, our goal is to get you to the job offer, and then I teach you how to make sure that you don't leave any money on the table. And if you're interested in either one of those courses, you can check out the video description, or you can go over to my website, alifeafterlayoff.com. So you want to get picked for the alpha employer and stop sounding average and start speaking like the top 1%. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next video.